Hi everyone, this is our second segment with author Lauren Kate. We're going to be continuing the discussion continuing by discussing Fallen and Torment and the writing process regarding those two books. So the first question I have for you is, did you always envision Fallen to be a series?
I think as soon as I knew that Fallen was going to be a book, I knew that it was going to be more than one book. When I first got involved with the idea and got excited about it, I didn't have any idea what it was going to be. It was just sort of a love story that it was two characters who were interesting to me. When I started writing a little bit and plotting it out a little bit, it quickly blew up into 3 books. And when I was ready to take it to my agent and take it to publishers, the first editor who wrote back and was excited and ended up buying the book and being my editor now, she suggested a 4th book with a prequel. And it was one of the most brilliant suggestions. I don't know if I would have ended up there anyway because it's become such a big part of the book, but I hadn't thought about it until she suggested it. And now the 3rd book, Passion, which I'm writing right now, I've just finished the first draft, it is, I'm calling it an integrated prequel because it doesn't jump way back to tell the story from the beginning. It picks up right where the story leaves off, and it's just a chase backward through time, told from both Luz's and Daniel's points of view. So it was, I guess, a collaborative effort to make it a 4-book series, but now it's such an important part of the book. I can't imagine it without Passion.
That's going to be really interesting, having the dual perspectives going back and forth. Is that fun writing?
It's so great because Daniel's character has been a struggle for me. In the first book especially, he was so almost unreachable to Luz and therefore to the reader, and really to me because I knew so much about him. I knew he had this whole history with her and a lot of wonderful, passionate, loving moments have passed between them, but they weren't on the page yet. So getting to explore them in Passion has been just, I guess, what I've always wanted to do with this series.
So what was the hardest part of writing both Fallen and Torment? And I guess now with Passion as well.
I think with Fallen, it probably was what I started to talk about a little bit, and it was just kind of knowing how much to withhold from the reader, and it was so torturous for me to have to do that because there was so many juicy details that I had sort of stored up, but unexplored and unexamined, but I knew they were there, and so I trusted and believed in the love between these 2 characters, but it was hard to know if I was able to get readers to feel that yet. So that was really hard with Fallen. Torment was just a fun book to write. I just enjoyed the characters a lot. I thought Luz was progressing in a really cool way and getting to do a lot of things that she probably had always wanted to do but didn't quite know how. So that felt like a really fun, dynamic growth book for her. Passion has been a challenge to write because the scope of it is so wild.
Right, it's covering so many.
It's like 6,000 years of time. Each chapter is a new century, it's a new country, it's entirely different. So doing sort of this historical research was a new challenge, and B, figuring out a linear narrative line that connects it all was something I didn't quite know how to do in the beginning, but now that I'm there and I'm really excited about where it's going, I think it's going to be probably the coolest book yet.
I'm definitely excited for that one. So now I just have a personal question about Passion. So is Luz's history, did she grow up on different continents in different countries?
Yes.
That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. I guess the important thing about Luz is that her soul always stays the same. She may look a little bit different. She has completely different families and completely different upbringings, so she can be quite different from life to life, but her soul remains the same and Daniel's soul remains the same, so that's always what brings them back to each other.
Well, definitely looking forward to that one. So, have you learned anything from writing these books?
Oh yeah, I don't think, what have I not learned? I mean, I think I've learned so much about, I think storytelling. I've always been fascinated by characters, so I would always begin a novel or story with a character sketch, a conflict between 2 characters, something like that. Plotting didn't come so naturally to me. So I would get a scene here and a scene here, and not quite know how they would connect to each other, or what any of it ended up to, why it mattered, all of that. So doing something with such as large a scope as Fallen, and these books have, plot is very important. And so I think I've learned a lot about plotting for sure. I mean, certainly I've learned a lot about angelology that I never knew anything about before. So that's been a great exploration. I've learned a lot about, I've read so many, especially with Passion, covering so much time. I've read a lot of novels, there's a Milan chapter set in 1918, I think. So I read A Farewell to Arms. So I read a lot of novels that were historically appropriate for the scenes that I wanted to cover. So it's just been, one lesson after another, but lots of fun.
So that's wonderful. So you feel like, as a writer, you've been able to, your ability to plot books has progressed from the first book.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest change.
It just feels easier to you.
Yeah, and I understand the importance of it, I think. I used to just think my characters will figure it out on their own, and, characters are as flawed as any of the rest of us, and sometimes they don't figure it out. So I've sort of learned, present them with this obstacle, give them this choice, things like that lead to, I think, more intricate and rewarding plots.
Absolutely. So Fallen was released less than a year ago, so it's been quite a whirlwind. How has the experience affected you, just overall?
It's just been a whole lot of fun. I mean, this time last year, I did not know, I had no idea what was going to happen when the book came out. I was excited about the book. I felt really supported and pleased with the people I had met at Random House, but who knows what's going to happen when it came out in stores. I think a week before it came out, I was so nervous that people were going to hate it. No one was ever going to read it. Who knew? And so this time, it's barely a year since then, and it's just so much fun to get to feel excited about the book coming out and feel confident that I can go out and talk to people about it, and people have questions, and I can, it's this great collaborative process being on the road, and I'm loving it.
Wonderful. How has the attention affected your writing?
Well, in one sense, I hear a lot of comments from readers, and I get a lot of questions from readers, and I think it helps me. You don't take everybody's advice, or you don't write what everybody wants you to write, but sometimes somebody will ask me a question or propose something that I think that is a really important thing I might not have considered addressing in the books, and it probably sits in my subconscious somewhere, and I think again, it's like having a great editor gives you this whole other window into what you're really trying to do that you can't always see. And so I think it's the same thing with getting feedback from readers. When it resonates with me, which is pretty often, it just goes into here, and then eventually it comes out in the books, I think. So it's been wonderful.
Do you feel like there's ever a conflict between sort of going out there and doing the things that an author does, and to sort of help, spread the story to your readers, and then getting back there and then having to
the writer versus the author, I guess. They do feel like very different things, and luckily I like them both, and they kind of balance each other out. I mean, doing a tour, I'm touring now, I think, for about 5 weeks, and so loving every second of it, but I think by the end of it I'll be happy to kind of sit alone by my computer and get back to the story, and at the same time working alone every day for 2 months, working on a draft or a vision or whatever. By the end of it, I'm completely bonkers, and I need to go outside and have a conversation with somebody else. So I think for now, they're definitely balancing each other out.
All right, well, that's a wrap for this segment. We've got one more to go on writing, and then 2 more after that on sort of the series in general.
All right.